Have you ever met somebody who checks all of the boxes? They're kind, they're good looking, they call when they say they're going to call, they text you back in a timely manner, they follow through on the plans that they make for you with you. You never question where you stand with this person. In fact, you are pretty solid knowing that they really like you and that they're really interested in you, and there's like no doubt in your mind. And instead of feeling happy or excited, you start questioning whether you're even with the right person. You start wondering, like, aren't I supposed to have more chemistry? Isn't there supposed to be more of a spark with this person? If that's you, I want you to pay close attention to this episode. If you found yourself in this scenario, most women believe that they are afraid naturally. If you've had a pattern of narcissism or emotionally inconsistent people in your life, you might think that you're afraid of attracting another emotionally unavailable person. But is it really that? Or is it that you're more afraid of who you would have to become in a relationship if your survival strategies weren't doing the driving? Today, I want to talk to you about why you might actually be more terrified or scared of a healthy relationship versus somebody who fits the pattern of inconsistency. It's usually a healthy relationship that challenges the very identity and the coping skills you have built your entire life on to get what you want. A healthy relationship is going to challenge the part of you that has learned to be the fixer, the cheerleading mommy, for a partner, not necessarily for your kids, the performer in your career or the performer in your relationships, the overfunctioner, the rescuer, the helper, not just to your ex or your partner, but to your friends or to your clients or to colleagues. Healthy relationship and a healthy partner requires that you lay all of that aside and simply be known for who you are. And that, my friend, is often terrifying if you've never experienced that before. If you grew up, or maybe you didn't grow up with inconsistency, but you had it in a marriage or a long-term relationship, what happens is that you start directing all of your attention out here onto what the other person is doing. And in trauma and neuroscience, we call this narrowing your focus, convergent focus. You narrow your focus and your body and your brain starts to get very tuned in to what that other person is doing. Side note, when we start falling for somebody in early stage dating, our brain and our bodies undergo the same thing when we have attraction for somebody. We start focusing all of our attention. Well, if you've had inconsistency in your relationships, especially in childhood, you naturally begin making that person the primary focus or one of the primary focuses in your life to receive love. And you start adjusting your behavior based on what they're doing, what they're saying, the facial expressions they have, the tone in their voice, the way that they walk into the room, their energy. You might identify with being an empath or a highly sensitive person. A lot of times people who identify as being empathic have childhood trauma, and that shapes their brain and their nervous system to be more tuned in to signals from other people because that's what they had to do to survive the environment they grew up in. If you're doing this in your life, it's not just that it shows up in your love life with the partners that you choose and you start basing your happiness off of what they're doing or what they're not doing. It often shows up in your career, with colleagues, with your boss, with your clients if you're self-employed. What happens when you start narrowing your focus onto what somebody else is doing, it produces a stress response. It jacks up your cortisol, it lowers serotonin, it makes you contract in your body. And over time, if you're doing this frequently, living in that state of stress starts to become normal and familiar for you. So that become kind of stuck, if you will, in a state of hypervigilance where you're scanning, you're like trying to protect yourself from a potential threat. You might read too much into a text message. You might perceive a lengthy response time as the end of the world, right? And so when you have this response, your focus is directed out here, it impacts what we call your window of tolerance for something healthy. Your window of tolerance is your ability to experience a wide range of emotions and bounce back. When you're consistently stressed, your window of tolerance to experiencing a wide range gets really short. And what happens when you have a shortened window of tolerance, my cat is meowing. She's 22. It's so annoying. Anyway, when you have a shortened window of tolerance, what also happens is that you start perceiving calm, peace, happiness, joy, love as a threat. And it's not necessarily conscious that you're perceiving it as a threat. It just feels off. It feels unfamiliar. And anything that feels unfamiliar, we have the tendency to perceive as, oh, I don't know, there's something off here. It doesn't fit. And as a result of that inconsistency that we have in relationships, we start taking on the belief that I don't want to depend on anybody. If you've said this, right? It's safer for me to be alone than be in a relationship. I was watching a reel yesterday, and this woman, her captions were, I don't have to come home and wonder what kind of mood you're going to be in. I don't have to constantly question my sanity. I don't have to apologize for things that I didn't do. When you live in a relationship environment where that's your reality, where you're constantly scanning out here, it's extremely exhausting. Yes, it lowers your window of tolerance. It also makes you believe that you can't trust good things to last. But I'm here to gently remind you that it's not the full truth, that you can open yourself to peace, calm, not just with another person, but with yourself as well. If you've had these types of relationships, one of the things that, and the fears and the experiences that comes along with that is abandonment. I don't want to be abandoned. That is often not the real fear here when it comes to a healthy relationship. That might be a fear, but the fear that I find is the most prevalent is dropping the identity of I don't want to depend on anybody. The real fear is giving up the mask or the coping strategies that you have used and learning a new way. And that process of letting go of all of the ways that you've related in the past before and showing up vulnerable, showing up exposed emotionally is in many ways than the fear of being abandoned. Yes, fear of being abandoned is for sure scary, but you've done that. Like, you know how to do, you survived it before, so you could probably survive it again. What you haven't really done is let the guard down and let the walls down long enough for somebody to really know you. That's hard. And to do it without sabotaging the relationship or finding a way to push that person away. So if this episode resonated for you, I'm here to remind you that healing does not mean that you build a life where nobody can get in and hurt you after narcissistic abuse. Healing is learning how to relate to love and be in relationship and be in and co-create emotional intimacy with yourself and with other people and create healthy connections without losing yourself or abandoning yourself or giving up your boundaries in the process. That's healing. It's both and. Not building a life where nobody can hurt you, because people are inevitably going to hurt you. No matter what you do, no matter how much healing you've had, people are going to disappoint you. The healing work, true healing, is about learning how to be with that uncomfortable feeling of rejection or disappointment or hurt, and be with yourself, not abandon yourself, not avoid conflict, speak up, like learn how to advocate for yourself in those relationships. And that's an entirely different skill set that can be scary, uncomfortable, and challenging to build when you've spent decades doing it another way. My name is Bethany Dotson, once again, somatic therapist and trauma-informed relationship coach for high-achieving women who have survived narcissistic relationships but still feel haunted by that trauma. I have a free training that helps you understand what you might be missing, especially if you've had a lot of therapy, you know you're an anxious attacher, or you know you are a fearful avoidant or dismissive avoidant or whatever. Like, you know all that, you know you're probably codependent, you know all about like covert narcissism and the vulnerable, like you know everything. And this training walks you through what you might be missing and steps that you can start implementing today to start seeing potentially a shift. And then if you would like to have a conversation about the possibility of working together, you can book a complimentary, no pressure, exploratory discovery session just to get a feel for where you are, understand where you want to go, and then mutually explore, are we a good fit to work together? Can I help you overcome the things that are in your way? Can I help you overcome the ways that you are unconsciously standing in your own way to get to where you want to be? And you can do that at bethanydotson.com/talk. If you have any comments or questions for me about this episode, drop them below and I will get back to you. Take care.